And I walked halfway across town, and I'm back, and I think I was sitting in Union Square, you know, up there where the St. Francis is. I was sitting on a bench, and there's this old duffer sitting there, and he says, "How you doing, young feller?" You know, he was with a kind of a little Irish brogue. And I said, "Not so hot. I just can't find a job. I've been all over it. I'm just worn out walking, looking, talking." He says, "Oh, I had a suit, you know. I did have a suit. I bought, you know, the clothes were pretty. Everything was cheap, you know, in those days. There was an outfit. It was, you know, it was a chain of men's suit stores. I think it was called Richmond's. Richmond's was one. There was more than one of those, but Richmond's was one. And they had men's suit stores all over the country, you know, and they just sold suits. They went from like about $12 to the best of their line was like $19 for a suit, you know. Well, I had one of those. I had a Richmond Brothers. Anyway, I had one of those suits, you know, so I didn't look like a bum, you know. I'm wearing a suit, a tie, and shirt and tie, you know, and decent shoes. I looked all right. The guy said, "Well, you look good." He says, "You know, you ought to go to Sally. That's where I am." And I said, "Sally? Who the hell is she?" He says, "No, that's Salvation Army." I said, "Oh, well, what are they going to do?" He said, "Oh, they hire. He said, "Didn't you know that?" And I said, What do you hire for what?" And he says, "Down there at the hall." He says, "It's huge. It's where they brought all the stuff that they picked up, you know, furniture and clothes and all that, and then sorted it, and then it went around to the different Salvation Army stores, you know, like the thrift stores. They hired all these guys who were working on fixing up appliances or, you know, working on stuff and straightening up and all that kind of work, you know, and they got room and board. And they had big dormitories, you know, and showers, and so, you know, you could eat and sleep, you know. I think they paid them like $8 a week, you know, and room and board. And so, man, imagine, I got nowhere, you know, I'm going to be out in the street. Jesus Christ, yeah. He said, "Come on, I'll take you over there." So we go over, and I go in, and I see the major. You know, and I told him I'm going to be out of my hotel. I got nowhere to go. What kind of work can I do for you? I really need. He says, "Oh, fine, we can use you, you know, because you're a decent-looking person here, you know. A lot of, you know, most of them are bums, you know, real bums." And so he says, "We can use you as a solicitor." I said, "The what?" He says, "You see, in those days, they didn't phone. You know, today you get phone calls all the time saying we're going to have a truck in the neighborhood," and they use all kinds of different names of what they are. They're picking up donations, you know, clothes or furniture. Well, then they had them walking out and knocking on the doors and telling them that. And then writing down if anybody was going to have anything, and then you turned it in every night, and then they sent the truck. Now, that was kind of the upper class of the joint, you know what I mean? It was, so I had my own room. I didn't have to live in the dormitory. It was only about 6 or 8 guys doing that. And it was about 200 or 300 other guys around there, you know. So... So I'm knocking on doors, and the area they gave me was the marina. That whole area was pretty cush area, you know. It was one of the better part of town. And so when I first started, I'm knocking on a lady's door, and tell her, you know, there are trucks coming around, and he says, "Yes, I do." She says, "I have the beautiful wardrobe of my husband who just died. And I've been wondering what I'm going to do with everything, and that'd be just one. She says, as a matter of fact, he was your size. Would you be embarrassed if I offered you personally his thing? I said, I certainly wouldn't. It took me in, and his whole fucking everything fit me beautifully. He had suits, top coat, hats, the whole works. She gave it to me. So I had to get it. I got it back to the place, you know, because fortunately I had a room, because the guys would have stolen and all that, you know. So now I really got a wardrobe, you know. I'm all set up. And it's good stuff, you know what I mean? And beautiful clothes. Jesus Christ, now I got a wardrobe that won't quit. But so I'm working every day, knocking on doors, and finally, and you know, and we eat in there's a big, huge dining room, you know, so we all eat there, and I'm sitting next to a guy who is a truck driver, one of the truck drivers, and so he said, what are you doing? I told him, you know, and I said, I'm out, where are you at? He says, well, that's where I drive out in Marina. He says, I probably one that picks up the stuff, you know, for me, that you list, you know, the places. And I started telling him, yeah, he says, I've been there, yeah. So here's a truck driver that's following me around, you know. And he said, hey, you ever give me good stuff, you know, that he says, you know, and I'm going to pick it up. He said, we can kind of nick it, you know, we could split it, you know. And I said, yeah, it's possible. You know, whenever, he says, the thing is, whenever I get any real good stuff, he says, the major has me drop it off at his house. The major ran that whole deal, you know. Yeah. He says, so, you know, I've been thinking, why the hell don't I drop it off at my house? Well, I don't have any house. He says, you know, but why don't I take advantage of some of this stuff if he can steal it, you know? And I said, yeah, might as well, Jesus. So anyway, make a long story short, we were selling good stuff. We had outlets all over. We had outlets for clothes, outlets for small furniture, you know, and then we'd sell it, you know, and split the money. And pretty soon we're making big dough, you know, in the Salvation Army between us. That goes along for a while. And one day, I'm in there eating, and the guy's not there. You know what he did? He took off with the whole fucking load, the whole big, you know those great big vans they use. It had a whole load that time, and he just took off with it. They found the truck in Sacramento. So he drove the truck to Sacramento, left it, and it was empty when they found it. It wasn't damaged, you know, he split. He made one big haul and took off for himself. And of course, that was the end of my career there. You know, I could keep going but I was making like $10 a week instead of $8, you know. I've been saving the money. I haven't thrown it away, you know, so I got a bankroll for the time. I got a real good bankroll, and I got all his clothes. So I went out and got an apartment. I left Sally, you know, I went out and got an apartment in San Francisco, got a nice little apartment, and then I started looking for work, and I got a job with Benetars. That's how I started with Benetars on Market Street. That's where the Benetar store was. That's their first store. It was a cut-rate drugs, you know. Big long hours, and I went to work there in the liquor department. And and that's how he started in San Francisco.